Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Mad Mamluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts Sheikh Amir and Mort, host of Muddy Buzz. Quick word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Mecca Books, your source for traditional Islamic knowledge. It's where seekers of knowledge go to buy their books. In fact, whether it's myself or Sim, we tend to go directly to Mecca Books because they have a massive catalog that covers just about every topic from fiqh, aqidah, hadith, tasawwuf, and everything else. Recently, we've ordered one amazing book called Exemplars for our time. It's a 9-volume set of 9 different books covering the lives of some of the most amazing Islamic figures in our modern history. It's the perfect book for a father looking to learn how to raise his daughter, a student of knowledge looking for inspiration, or someone on a spiritual path wanting to learn how some of the awliya of our tradition manage their lives while still worshiping their Lord in the greatest way. You can go to meccabooks.com/TMM to purchase the book and use the code TMM for a 10% discount. Let us know what you think once you get the book.
Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
You know, just to let you know, the intention is beautiful, but Sadaqallahu al-Azim means Allah has spoken the truth.
Oh, I shouldn't. Oh, you
You're the thumb for that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. What he means to say is maybe blessed what was just said.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Say barakallahu feek, Sheikh.
I just wanted to say something religious, guys. Too close.
It's all right. We're not live. It's okay.
No, we are live.
Oh, darn it. We're live. No, darn. I thought this was pre-recorded.
Shabab. Assalamu alaikum.
Shababis.
Shababis. One of the listeners said, "Hey, Sim, what's going on? You used to call it Shababis, and you forgot about it.
Bring it back. Bring Shababis back."
Shababis kind of sound like scabbies, you know what I mean?
No, bro.
Like
No. It sounds like kebabs, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Scabbies. Anyways, anyway, what do we have today, brother?
Well, there's a lot going on, Chef, but I just wanted to kind of start off with a little bit light and easy work, you know? Well, so, you know, a lot of us, everyone pretty much on this table, you know, we're working hard in our personal lives and just the responsibilities keep piling up, you know, and stress is accumulating. And I was just like, you know how we do, we send salawat on the Prophet, you know, to alleviate from stress and things like that. So as I was doing it, a thought came to my mind and I was like, let's talk about this on the show because I started doing the Wim Hof breathing method while doing dhikr. Okay. Now,
interesting.
So the Wim Hof breathing method, for those who don't know, Wim Hof is this guru who learned from many kind of people in Nepal or what are they called?
Olive Oil shaman and all that.
No, what are they called? Those
they call them gurus and shaman. And...
Gurus,
not shaman, bro. The people, those
Shaolin monks.
Yeah, monks and stuff, you know. So
like Tibetan monks and things like that.
Yeah. So who have all these kind of breathing techniques. Even the Hindus have this too in their traditions and stuff. So I started doing this and wait, is this permissible or not? Because it felt good. You know, I was doing the dhikr while taking deep breaths and Wim Hof says, you know, you do a number of these exercises. You can Google it or go on YouTube and search Wim Hof. It's WIM space HOFF, I think, or HOF. Breathing techniques, and he gives you these breathing techniques to alleviate your stress. And there's so many benefits that have been scientifically documented that many scientists have studied his method and seen him cure himself from diseases and all kinds of infections and you name it. He's performed all kinds of insane things.
It works. I help people that had like panic attacks and stuff too. With
right.
Yeah.
I can definitely help you with panic attacks and a whole host of stuff.
Anxieties.
So as I was sitting after prayer and doing this, I'm like, wait, is this okay? And I'm like, well, this would be a great thing to just kind of toss your way and start off the show. If you, what your thoughts are on it? Have you incorporated things that are outside our tradition along with what is prescribed from our deen, related to worship, so this I thought kind of was a benign example because there's no like you're not worshiping another god or you're not, but it is kind of from the traditions of the mushrikeen, in how the polytheists and how they worship their gods and maybe how they treat themselves with stuff. So can you divorce their application of faith from and just use that within your own worship? And I'm sure like many scholars have thought about this stuff because we've talked about in the past how some of the Sufis used to use some haram practices like the consumption of cannabis or psychedelics to enhance their worship of God. This is a very small percentage. Guys, we're not anti-Sufi. If anyone's new to the show, we're just talking about a small percentage of heretical people who use haram practices to get closer to God, right? And I was thinking what your thoughts are related to this.
Yeah, so look, I think Wim Hof breathing is very, very beneficial. I've tried it before, even when I had COVID. I like my lungs felt weird, so I tried my best to fill them up with as much oxygen, and it's actually really simple to do it. You should try it in like 3 intervals, like in the morning and in the evening, especially if you have like severe anxiety. Some people do it 3 times a day, but you should start off lightly. You should be in a safe place and lie down because you can get lightheaded, and you start these tingling start in your fingers and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to be a little careful when you do it, and don't do it right after you eat. It'll definitely bring some of that food up. But I think it's very, very beneficial with health. Now, I think the dilemma comes about is with acts of worship, over here, dhikr, is when we couple it with let's call it a type of physical activity right now, right? With a physical activity. It can be very beneficial. For instance, when I go walking, I think, especially when I'm alone and I'm in nature, it's very beneficial for me to do dhikr at that time. Many people do that, right? While you're working out, some people will be listening to the Quran or just try to get in like a certain type of dhikr 100 times, which is fine, right? I think the issue that we have to ask about as far as the breathing that's concerned is there's other religious traditions like Buddhists where they actually have inscribed methods and systems of breathing, which is a part of their religion, if I'm not mistaken, right? And I heard this from a Buddhist guy who used to be Buddhist and became Muslim, but he said that was something that they used to practice on a regular, making certain sounds collectively just to build your spirits and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing. So we have to make sure that this thing that Wim Hof he incorporates, is it actually an inscription that's a part of some type of religion, right? The other thing is that some people may be deceived in thinking that if they do dhikr and the Wim Hof breathing, that the dhikr is bringing them some type of ecstasy. The reason why I'm saying that is there's actually breathing methods that can actually make you trip and can actually give you some type of intense feelings of tinglings all over the body and all that kind of stuff. And when people mix those two, if they do it, and it's not a part of any religion, they should only do it by themselves and make it very, very clear that this is not from Allah, this is not from our deen, this is just a way that I do dhikr. I do dhikr sometimes. And sometimes people do dhikr while they're doing those type of breathings. And I know I have, because once I got like really, really lightheaded, I just started doing like a dhikr and worried that, dude, is this like dangerous now? Like, is something going to happen to me? So I was kind of doing it for protection while I was doing the breathing, because you're like, when you never experienced something like that before, and it's nothing outlandish, don't think that it's something crazy, but it's something that you feel like you're about to pass out, but it's a very, very sense of well-being type feeling when you're done with it. It's a great feeling. Like for instance, when you get out of a cold shower, like that nice warmth that you feel internally for like the next half hour, it's a little better than that. But the reason I'm mentioning that is that we don't want to associate the dhikr with something that is an intense type of feeling that's induced with breathing, because the expectation now for some individuals may be that, for instance, and I've heard people say this before, well, I don't get that feeling when I do dhikr, so I'm going to do this so I can get that feeling when I do dhikr. You're not supposed to get a feeling when you get dhikr, when you do dhikr. You can, but we shouldn't expect it, right? I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but there's a brother that I met where he said that he read some writings of, some of the people of Tasawwuf, where when Fatima radiallahu anha, she would pray at night, there would be an immense light that would be witnessed from her room, right? And wallahu alam how accurate that is, right? So for him, he's like, man, I've been doing all the dhikr and tahajjud every night just so I can get that light that Fatima radiallahu anha got, right? So yes, inshallah, he's doing it for a good reason, but there's an escape that's expected, or a feeling that's now expected, or in this case, a light that's expected from doing dhikr and doing tahajjud, which you're not supposed to expect in the first place. His thing was, I'm just waiting to get that light. That's the reason why I do this type thing. Right?
Yeah.
And I met this brother like 10 years ago. That's what
So this is about intentions.
No, it's not even about intentions. It's about what your expectations. Like, I know somebody who's like, yeah, I don't pray anymore. Wallahi, I know a person specifically who we've been trying to get to pray. They don't want to pray because, like, yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. I was like, what do you mean it doesn't do anything for you? It's like, I don't feel any different.
Oh,
and
so
for me, it was like,
you're saying that there should not be like some expectation.
there shouldn't be an expectation.
Right.
You have to do it.
Right.
But with dhikr, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub." Isn't it with the dhikr of Allah that the hearts find tranquility, right? And that tranquility is obviously when you separate yourself from this world, and you're only with Allah. Naturally, the human being is going to be in a state of khushu', right? And when they're in a state of khushu', yes, they're going to feel that Allah is their creator. They're going to feel that there's no other way, and that's the feeling that they get. But it shouldn't be that, okay, I say astaghfirullah 70 times and all of a sudden, hey, I should be feeling great. No, there's no expectation of that from any ibadah, actually, right? You just have to do it. Nobody gets a great expectation when they wake up for Fajr on a winter morning, like, oh yes, I feel great right now. No, majority of us are like, bro, this is so difficult to do. That's what majority of us feel like, right? So the reason why I mentioned all of that is there's three parts to this. Number one, is this breathing actually something that's inscribed from another religion? I don't know. Wallahu alam. And if it is, then it's something that we should actually refrain from because it's a religious practice, right? The second is that
even though it's been secularized now, so because what Wim Hof did was he took those practices and he introduced it to the West and he secularized it. Whereas other guys who have come to the West with those practices, they've been, like, for example, there's many yogis across California who've started their little cults and stuff, and I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but many of them started these mini cults all across the country where they incorporated many of these breathing practices to attain a level of spiritual state. Many of them were like psychedelic trips where there's hallucinating, and through these breathing techniques they can achieve some kind of mental state where they're hallucinating, and they feel great benefit from this. I'm not talking about these people. Wim Hof specifically took
he's basically amalgamated all of that.
He's taken specific breathing techniques, and he just said, you know what, forget about the religious aspects of it, just incorporate this into your life to better your mental state or better your whatever ailments you have going on,
No, and the other thing is, look, we can't forget, like, Sufis of the past and Sufis of the present still, not all of them, some of them, if I'm not mistaken, still do dhikr with a certain type of breathing. They say Allahu, Allahu, hu, and then just for huwa, meaning he is Allah, they say hu, 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 and they do that. That's intense breathing. Of course, it gives them a different type of feeling because the intense breathing, like, even if you just breathe in like 30 breaths really hard without stopping, you're going to feel like lightheaded and almost dizzy. So the dilemma also occurs is people confuse that with them getting something from Allah. Yeah. That the dhikr is actually causing that. But it's actually you manipulating your breathing that's causing you that feeling. Yeah. It's not the dhikr. So we have to understand that if we teach that to people, it can give them a false expectation of what dhikr actually is. But if they just want to do dhikr and they just have that time and they want to do breathing at the same time, it's best to separate it, because dhikr is supposed to be separate from like an intense activity like that can cause you some type of confusion of what's actually happening. But if that's the only time they have and that's the best time for them to do dhikr, they should do it on their own, and they shouldn't expect or tell other people to do that either. Do Do you understand what I'm saying?
But
because it can become a practice. Let's say you teach that to people. It's like, dude, this is a great form of dhikr. And now you have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people practicing it. Like you talked about all those people who follow this Wim Hof method. They actually have people that actually go off on these camps and they have like a 3-day seminar. They go in the woods and they have like 100 people doing Wim Hof breathing together, all together. Now, that's what Muslims may start doing, and they do that to some degree in certain issues when they do like hadras and these and like the group dhikrs. They incorporate a lot of interesting actions there, and we don't want this breathing technique to become something like that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think what Sim is saying, it's the Wim Hof guy, like he said, he wants it to be devoid of any kind of religious attachment. What he's saying is that there are clear health benefits of using the technique. So I think if you use that intention and say, listen, this is like exercise for me, right? Because I mean, I don't do it as much now, but I used to do it because like there's like a lot of benefits for this. It lowers blood pressure, and for men out there, it increases testosterone. I'm talking about like next level. But you got to do it right. Like I got to a point where in the beginning I could start like at halfway. And I eventually, actually warmer, and I would bring it down to halfway. But I got to a point where, like last year, where I could...
Talk about cold showers.
Cold showers.
Yeah.
The breathing technique in cold showers.
Garmi ho rahi.
A lot of... No, because a lot of Wim Hof, what he does, if you watch his videos, like he'll go in a polar ice lake or whatever, and he'll just sit there and breathe. Because a lot of that is regulating your breathing. So the best way to get practice in regulating your breathing is the temperature fluctuation, like going into cold right away. Yeah. Like it's not only good for your joints and your swelling and your heart, but it's also
inflammation. Yes, good for
right.
Inflammation.
Exactly. So I got to a point where I would just keep it on like down low. All the way started on the lowest setting, and then it's a shock to the body. You never get used to it, but the amount of breathing and focus, and here's the craziest thing. He was talking about breathing and like just the benefits of it. In that moment, if you combine that with a cold shower technique, like in that moment, I can't describe it, but like for those of us that have like, my mind's always racing, like. Even now, I'm thinking about 100 different things. It's just my mind, the way my mind is. That's why even when I go to bed, I can't just turn the lights off. I gotta listen to something. But in that moment, like you can't think of anything but breathing. And it happens because like you're just focused on trying to, so you kind of clear like all this junk.
That's what the mindfulness tries to attempt to do in meditation and stuff.
Right. But in that moment, like you're kind of forced to not think of anything else, but just saying, oh my God, this is cold, but I'm going to breathe through it. All right. And then you get, and here's the thing, it never gets easy. But the cool thing though, is that every time you do it in the morning, you kind of get used to it, but it's still a shock. But it's kind of like that first battle on the day you conquered. Everything else becomes easy.
To give an idea, just for people who aren't familiar with Wim Hof, this guy summited, or he didn't summit, but he got very close to summiting Everest with nothing but shorts on.
Naked. Scientists started studying. He became a specimen of study.
He just did his breathing techniques all the way up Everest, and I think he ended up having some kind of foot injury.
He had a foot injury.
But he ended up sitting on ice and melted the ice around him from the heat that he was able to regulate from his body from breathing. Right. So the guy is a specimen literally because scientists started studying him, and and that's how he started becoming very rich.
But literally, his whole technique is based on extreme focus on your body and breathing and regulating your temperature through breathing. Like his body. He realized that he can get his body into a particular state by breathing patterns.
That's pretty cool.
And so he'll tell you flat out. I think Sim, he mentions it. I'm nothing special. It's just the practice I've been doing with my breathing, and anyone else can do it. I can teach anyone else to do this.
Anyway, so fellas, if you guys are struggling with anything in your life, maybe you should consider some of these breathing techniques. But come with the understanding that anything that is from another tradition, you just leave that other part there. I can't say for sure that there's nothing wrong about it, but at least I've used it in many situations where I've felt too much stress or just day-to-day burdens of life. And
It helps a lot with
yeah,
anxiety.
it certainly does help. And I would encourage you guys to look
What do you
into
think
it as well.
about because this will beg the question, right? What do you think about like yoga? Because I mean,
I was just gonna say that.
because yoga clearly has, but I think that there's a key difference. I don't know if we can say this, but I look at yoga a little bit different because I think it's kind of a religious practice for them.
It is, yeah. 'Cause
Like-
I got a chance to research this.
Yeah.
The dilemma is, so look, during COVID I really got into yoga, right? But yoga now, like the genre on YouTube is like, for instance, they have like something called yoga for men,
Yeah.
yoga for fighters. What it is they took the stretches from yoga and they didn't do the poses. The poses that you have in yoga are the poses of the gods of the Hindus and the Buddhists and stuff. Like there's specific poses that they say, things that they say that, are religious poses of their gods. And we refrain from all of those, right? So when us and our family, when we used to do this yoga thing like once a week or sometimes 3 times a week, I basically did research on which YouTube videos we would see that didn't have any of the strict, because some of the people, like some of these gurus are hilarious, bro. They go to like, Tibet, or they go to India and they come back and they feel like they're Hindu. They wear the white dude with a red dot on his head and he's like saying all the things and like the chakras
he's
and all
wearing
the
the orange
names and
outfit.
namaste, and he's saying like all these different things. And he's like, okay, Ganesh pose, Hanuman pose, and all that kind of stuff,
my
right?
God.
So there that's yoga originally. Their religious practice, look, we have to understand the religious practice that they had a bodily benefit to them, but those specific poses are religious poses. So we don't practice those religious poses specific. What people do now is they've broken it down for us, where all the stretches that were involved that were very beneficial, and some of them were not very beneficial. So people get injured from some of those poses that Tibetan monks and stuff do, because they've been doing this from such a young age. But if you start late, you're actually going to harm yourself. So I highly suggest, if you're a dude, look up like like men yoga for men, because then you're just going to have a dude that's just in like shorts.
So
and
what
maybe
you're
like a
saying
tank
though is
top.
that they've taken like in the same method here, they've taken the stretching, which is normal for everybody.
Yeah.
Right, and they've just taken that and just called it yoga.
Yeah,
generically.
but it's like physical therapy mixed with some of it, like the downward dog and that all that kind of stuff. And the
Downward
warrior
dog.
pose. You never heard of downward dog?
Warrior pose.
You never heard of downward
What's the
dog?
warrior pose? Can you demonstrate?
No, I'm not gonna demonstrate it right now.
Is it intensive or what?
If you hold it for a while, it's intensive. So there's 2 types of yoga. There's one that's specifically for stretching, and one that'll build kind of like your endurance, and that's the one that they kind of use for like MMA fighters use that a lot now.
So the ones
fighters
where they
use it.
hold poses are more for endurance.
because they're very difficult.
Right, of course.
Very
Yeah.
difficult.
So my brother does like isometric stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like a yoga, but he'll do like holds and poses. Like he'll have those little push-up bars you can have.
Yeah.
And he'll do like handstands and like hold position and like cross his legs.
No,
or
there's a lot of
whatever.
benefit in that.
Yeah.
Like people just go to like the door frame and just do like a push, even if it's in one place. And what that actually is supposed to be a different type of way that it sparks the muscle fibers, right? But yoga has some stuff similar like that.
So it's basically, to summarize, because there's some people in the chat who still don't understand, if you just make your intention clear that you're not incorporating anyone's faith or traditions or their beliefs, if there's some kind of benefit you found in the breathing techniques or a yoga pose or something like that, you're not going to go to hell.
And there's nothing
And just make sure you do your
spiritual
research. And the reason why I'm saying this is just, if you just look up like men's yoga or reparative yoga or yoga therapy for injuries, you're not going to find like Hindu god poses or anything. You're just going to find a bunch of dudes that are really good at stretching, that are showing you how to stretch. Goggins actually has a really good stretching. David Goggins has a really good stretching routine. Just look it up on YouTube. It's a great stretching routine.
Yeah, unless there's some kind of pose that requires you to bow down to Hanuman or something.
Make his pose and make his face.
Itself wouldn't, your intention doesn't matter. That's clearly, not permissible. So use your brain. Remember, everything starts with your intention and
don't be doing with the other gender.
sincerity. Sorry?
No other gender yoga stuff. Like you can't be in classes with other, gender.
Hot yoga, bro.
Yeah, no hot yoga, no yoga pants, stuff.
Yeah. That's
true.
That's true.
Very true.
You don't want.
I don't want someone to be like, "Oh, Sheikh Ahmed did yoga is fine. I'm gonna go to yoga class."
No. Do that at home or just go to like a men's yoga. There's a lot of men's yoga places that are opening up now. Just do that if you're a dude.
Everything's available on YouTube to learn by yourself.
Yeah, man.
I encourage you,
I
everyone.
actually want to witness Sheikh Ahmed doing yoga. Is that just?
No, me
yoga after the
and
episode.
Sheikh have done it together. You
Oh
haven't
wow!
seen
How
us?
come we've never invited you?
Oh, wait,
to
hold
private
on.
sessions?
Sim made it like we had our own like session. Like, hey, let's meet for yoga. That's not what happened. Sim, hold on. Let me just explain, please, because
We got
I don't want to come off
holding
too
poses for each
fruity
other?
here, okay, buddy? Okay, so check this out. What I was just showing Sim that I started stretching because I had like some nerve issues, and even now, like I've been sitting all day at work, so I have to do specific type of like stretches. So I showed him a few of these things that really helped and were really beneficial, right? And that's what it was. Like I think it was 1 or 2 times I showed him, guys. We don't get together. I'm like, all right, guys, it's yoga stretch time. Me and you, Sim. That's not what happened.
What I'm asking for is I want to see you do one of these yoga sessions. Now, I'm curious to know because because look,
no
you know what it
problem.
is. We'll wrap this one up soon, but no, a lot of people say this. No, oh, yoga is it's not that intense. It's not blah blah blah. It's not hard. It's not going to gain you muscle. There's no benefit. I mean, they have these preconceived notions. But the thing is, like, I want to try yoga, whatever positions, but I'm not going to go with some, weirdo.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, he's a transformer is trying to, do something. I'd rather be the trusted Sheikh Ahmed.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, guys. Now that we got that sorted out, it was meant to be a 10-minute question.
That was
Turned out to
weird.
be half an
Yeah.
hour. Let's move on to the main topic of the evening. Salman Rushdie was stabbed. He is an author that was the author of the book The Satanic Verses. And apparently he's still in critical condition right now. He's
Liver injury, eyesight may be gone, nerve injury in the arm. Yeah.
Do you guys find that ironic?
But as this topic came up, I just wanted to kind of talk about what exactly he did that upset Muslims all over the world, because many Muslims are young and they don't remember. Even for me, a lot of this stuff happened
1988. It was released. Yeah.
So many of us don't hardly remember anything that happened during those days. So I think it's worth going over some of the things that Salman Rushdie said, and because what happens is many people who are free speech advocates, they try to gloss over some of the details related to this, and they try to make Muslims look like, we're the crazy people. They try to kind of burn our memory and just make it seem like we were crazy about getting upset. What he did was incredibly blasphemous, and it deservedly got Muslims upset. Okay, and as a disclaimer, before we talk about any of this, we're not inciting anyone to violence. We don't encourage anyone to, hurt anyone because of what they said. We do believe in the honor of the Prophet. We do, as Muslims, it's a unanimous opinion that anyone who insults the Prophet receives a death penalty, but it's not an individual duty. It's carried out by a state-run actor that is Islamically inclined, which nothing like that exists today. All of these states are secular states. If there was something to be done, it would have to be taken up by a Islamically governed state.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that we got that out of the way, what exactly did Salman Rushdie do? Why don't you start things off?
Well, by the way, before we get started, I just found it kind of odd that his name is Rushdie, like Rushdie, kind of like. I just put two together, but not that.
MashaAllah. Great insight.
No, but I just thinking about looking up the name. I'm like, oh wow, Rushdie. But anyways, look, here's the bottom line. The man made a mockery of the religion for profit, and he claims that he didn't realize the impact of what he was doing. And for someone who grew up in India around Muslims and being involved in a culture that's not American, by the way, not Western, so you understand the sensitivity of religion and communal violence, to not know that this would be triggering and enraging to many Muslims around the world is just simply it's oblivious at best, right? I mean, but do I believe that he was oblivious to that fact? No. I think that he actually knew what his intention was while doing this. He wanted to take the piss out of the Muslims, right? And some people will say, well, it's just a novel. It's just a fictional story. The problem, though, is that the entire fictional story is based on insulting, and to the highest degree, what Muslims hold dear and sacred. An example of this would be, and I had to go look this up personally because I was a kid when this came out. We just knew this guy was a scumbag and he was coming out with stuff. We were not allowed to read any of this stuff anyways. But so upon reading it, before the show, I was actually confused as to what actually was, what did he do, right? And so when you read about the stuff that he writes and the comparison he makes, of course, any Muslim is anyone with an ounce of ghira or jealousy for the religion is going to be upset. And an example of this would be, for example, he would use a name given to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by the Orientalists to insult him. Mahmoud is the name they use, right? They call Mahmoud or something like this. Mahmoud, right? Yeah. Where it was like basically to mean like someone who's like demonic or whatever it may be, right? Yeah. And he intentionally
also a dog.
Like a dog, right? Like yeah. I think like a demonic dog or whatever it was. But anyways, point being is that he would make it that this prophet met someone, what he called a farishta, which is angel in Persian and Urdu, and the man is actually Gabriel. And then he goes on to say that that there's the area that they live in, which is supposedly supposed to be Mecca, but he names it in the story the area of Jahiliyyah. So basically, he's trying to,
He basically wrote a parallel novel of what actually happened with Rasulullah,
and
but
he
just
uses
used
very
names.
offensive terms to define them. For example, he had the largest brothel in the city of Jahiliyyah, and all like the top women in the brothel, their names are similar to the Prophet's wife's name, right? So things like this that you would do that were essentially, they were, it was a clear attack on Muslims.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that anyone that has a ghira for the deen is going to be upset. And so for Muslims to feel offended is 100% right. This notion that a free speech, I think this is what it really comes down to. A lot of these kuffar will use the term free speech, right, to end up saying that, well, things should be allowed. You should be tolerant in the name of free speech.
Yeah.
And this is what he actually, and the funny part is, I don't even think he intended to make his argument about free speech. He was just trying to...
he did, though.
No, hold on. I think his original thing was to offend Muslims. And then when the Orientalists grabbed onto it and they said, oh, well, we're going to support you because this is free speech in the name of attacking Islam, they then began to make his issue about free speech, right? This is a matter of free speech, not that I want to offend anybody, but it's just free speech. You don't have the right to be offended.
Yeah, and he was given protection by the British government.
Right.
What if he said something about the Holocaust? Would they still defend him? What if he said that the Holocaust didn't exist?
Well, they're a protected class of people. And here's what they will argue. They will argue that, well, the Holocaust actually did happen, and, there are neo-Nazis today that want to perpetrate another Holocaust. So, it
doesn't matter. It's free speech.
Yeah.
Yeah. It shouldn't matter.
I agree. And by the way, I think we as Muslims, any Muslim that tells you they believe in free speech, this is against core Islamic values. First of all, let's break this down logically. There is no free speech. Nothing is free in the world, bro. Nothing is free at all. If you had, and to be honest, a Muslim or any rational person should support the fact that there is no free speech. We don't have complete freedom of speech for a good reason. Right? We don't allow people to incite violence. We don't allow people to, for example, at a basic level, we don't allow people to drop F-bombs on children's programs.
We don't allow them to backbite.
Well, no, I'm talking about from a secular level.
Oh, okay,
We don't allow people to drop F-bombs on children's programming, right? We have a censorship of speech. And any censorship of speech means that there's no free speech. Yeah. There's no complete freedom of speech.
I get what you're saying.
So what I'm saying is that even at a secular level, no one truly believes in freedom of speech, right? For example, let's go to another area more sensitive. this whole notion behind the Patriot Act, which is what? The Patriot Act, right? Which is that the material support of terrorism. Even if you don't agree with terrorism, something you say can be used as evidence that you are a material support of terrorism. Where's the free speech in that? Right? There's none. And to be honest, from an Islamic perspective, we believe that Allah commands us to say good things.
Yeah.
Right? And to say righteous things.
Yeah.
Not to spread lies, not to have ghiba or namima or gossip or slander, and not to speak words of injustice to people. These are commands to us. So as Muslims, we don't believe in this concept of freedom of speech. The same way we don't believe in the idea that people should have the right to wear whatever the hell they want to wear. Right? We don't believe in nakedness and lewdness, right? We don't believe in these things. So the argument of free speech is, number one, is a completely subjective argument. It's not objective. And number two, it doesn't exist within our realm. It's not practically applicable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just say whatever you feel, right? There has to be
Scream fire in a crowded theater. What happens to you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to mention a story here, but back in the days, one of them we knew, and someone that we also knew, made a bomb threat to prank somebody, right?
Yeah.
And that didn't end up very well, right? Even though there was nothing there, it wasn't something that was. And by the way, this happened like 30 years ago. Like, I mean, this was like way before terrorism was a thing, but nonetheless, it was just kids making a joke. But what happened was that the parent of one of these children had to take that charge on his record, because there are repercussions of your speech.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't change.
Yeah. Then I think the dilemma is someone can say to you, well, that has to do with bodily harm, or you're kind of, you're missing the point of free speech here. What free speech is, that anything that you believe you should be able to say. And fire is a fact. Is there a fire? There's not a fire, and people are getting harmed from it. Right? But free speech should be about your beliefs. If you believe something, you should be able to talk about it.
Yeah, what if you believe the fire is real? It's all subjective. Right?
Or just like how we talked about Alex Jones the other day. He believes Sandy Hook didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a great example.
You know, he didn't call anyone to violence. He didn't tell his followers to go hurt people.
Yeah.
But
so the reason why this is important you bring this up. The reason why I actually had support of Alex Jones in this particular issue is because if I'm going to be consistent with the current framework they have, then by your own legal definition or your societal definitions and worldview, Alex Jones should have the right to say what he wants to say.
Yeah.
But from the Islamic perspective, I don't have a problem with limiting Alex Jones.
Yeah.
At a core value, I don't have a problem with that, because if he's spreading falsehood, then you cut the head of the snake.
Yeah.
Right? But in their worldview, it shows the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
They can criticize Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the name of free speech. They can criticize Muslim women. They can criticize God. They can make fun of people. They can criticize even straight people, label them names for not accepting other people, whatever it may be. But when it comes to issues like Alex Jones, oh, he's an anti-vaxxer. He's spreading anti-vaccine propaganda. He's denying Sandy Hook. Blah, 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 blah. We have to limit that speech. We have to curb that.
And this is done, it's important to understand, this is done by both sides, like the right wing and the left wing. The right wing, remember when the NFL players were taking the knee during the flag? Sure. They're desecrating our flag. Hey, it's freedom of speech, freedom of expression.
Yeah. Correct.
They're doing whatever they want to show their disapproval for what the American government or the West has done to the black people. They're making a stand against racism, right?
So what would you say to those people who said that, yes, we agree, they have the right to do it, but it just isn't a good thing, and it's actually a very rude thing to do?
So you can have...
Well, no, that's fine. But what they did was for example, in Colin Kaepernick's issue, they blackballed him. None of these teams would take him on, even though he was a perfectly qualified quarterback. He could definitely be... at least at that point in his career, he was a starter on any
top
team.
15 quarterback.
I don't know if he was top 15, but he was definitely in the middle of the pack, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, whatever.
In the beginning, he was. He could
have got a contract, definitely. Yeah, right.
So,
yeah,
they took away his livelihood, right? Yeah. And
but the point that he's making is more important. That why is it that when you criticize other things, the right had no issue. But when the right felt like that Colin Kaepernick was criticizing their patriotism and their sense of nationhood, that all of a sudden at that point No. Free speech is enough.
Yeah.
This is too much free speech.
Yeah.
Too much freedom of expression.
Yeah.
Who is the arbitrator of what is too much and too little?
Exactly. You're right.
That's where the dilemma
That can
is.
only come from Allah.
For we as Muslims, it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
Allah decides for us what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? We have a
work out
clear
that
path.
problem. Yep.
For them, no matter right or left, as he mentioned, at some point they're going to fall into a contradiction.
Yeah. That's why things are constantly changing, right? What's considered right and wrong just in morality is just constantly changing every 5 years.
Sheikh, what does Allah say in the Quran about how they go into darkness and then they just keep going into darkness even more? Like whatever enlightenment that they think they have about their beliefs, it's just furthermore going into contradiction on top of contradiction. I forgot the actual ayah, but
there's a verse about how they go deeper into their disbelief or something like this. I remember reading this.
In their confusion, they just keep getting even more confused because they think they found some kind of enlightenment or some kind of great idea or whatever, but because they're not on the truth, they just fall deeper and deeper into confusion and chaos and contradictions.
I'm trying to remember the verse.
Yeah, it's the beginning portions of Surah Al-Baqarah.
Yeah.
I think, look, dude, I think what this all comes down to is when Salman Rushdie wrote his book, he became a champion of free writing and the whole literary element of just postmodernism, of being able to write whatever you want, going against all the rules, talk to authority, those people who have anything sanctified, talk against it. And we have to break the chains of not being able to have literary works against sacred issues to people or sacred matters of people. And he was actually the champion of that for a lot of people, and that's why the British government gave him asylum and safety and guaranteed his protection. I think it was like a 10-year thing or 20-year thing. And throughout the years, if you watch his YouTube videos, he's constantly kind of like with these Bill Maher type guys,
Yeah.
He was on Bill Maher a few times, I think.
Yeah.
And he's constantly like trying to seem very, very like eloquent and like regal in his belief of being proud of being able to insult Islam and Rasulullah, and
you know what the funny part is though, is that you see what they're doing here. He is a clear bigot, right? But he's trying to align himself with the leftists because he doesn't want to come off as someone who's intolerant of other things. He wants to say, no, I'm actually a free person.
Yeah.
I'm actually a free thinker. I'm cool with the gays, with the lesbians, with this, with that. But, he can't, because to be honest, his rhetoric more aligns with the right wing in terms of their view of Islam. But he doesn't want to be aligned with them because morally he's conflicted, right? Meaning that he wants to portray himself as a free thinker, a liberalist, a free individual who accepts everybody and everything, even criticism, even not, whatever it may be, all lifestyles. So he has no option but to align with people like him. But at the end of the day, he's at summary of it, he was a bigot. He's an anti-Islamic bigot who just really doesn't actually want total equality or equity. He just wants it in certain senses. So it's funny, and this is a problem that Bill Maher has too. We've talked about this before. People like Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro, they may come off with very logical arguments, but the minute they speak about certain touchy subjects like Islam or Palestine and Israel, right? All that sense of logic and justice and activism goes out the window.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Next, we have our the situation that happened in New Mexico. There were many different killings that happened over the course of weeks and months, I think, related to 4 different Muslim men who were killed by another man who was a Sunni man, and I think the other 4 were the one who were slain were Shia, and this spouted off the usual people online who wanted to start some kind of campaign to use this as a vehicle to end the Sunni Shia divide and create some kind of consensus around Sunnis condemning the killing of Shias that happen, every so often around the world. And I think it's pretty much understood among Sunnis that, killing Shias is forbidden in Islam. I didn't know that needed clarification, but apparently people took to their social media mantles and wanted to bring awareness around that. And I wanted your guys' thoughts on how, as Muslims, we should look into some of these statements. And we'll go ahead and bring up some of these statements, and maybe we can comment on that.
So first of all, let me premise this by saying this. The Sunni guy is allegedly, I don't think he's been convicted yet, so I want to give him the benefit of the doubt too. All right, and maybe he did, he didn't, I don't know. Most probably he did, but it's alleged right now. Secondly, here's the thing. Let's start off by saying the killing of any innocent people is wrong.
Yeah.
No one agrees with this, right? We're not extrajudicial killers. We're not contract killers. We're not sicarios.
We're not JSOC.
You don't just take the, law into your own hand. However, using this as an excuse to try to gloss over all of the divides that we have and saying that it's actually, and the reason why I'm mentioning this is because as Simon mentioned, there are some Sunni imams, and people, positions of power, that are making it sound like that we as Sunnis are in a position of privilege, and we have to understand the plight of Shiites, and we have to, be activists for them. We have to, fight for their equality, and that it's, only people who have political agendas will highlight the differences, the nuances between us. And I think that is the counter extreme. I think that type of mentality is almost as dangerous as someone going and murdering somebody. And I'll tell you why. Oh, how about we read this first?
Yeah. So this is from Khalid Latif. He's a prominent chaplain at NYU. I believe he's acts as some kind of in that sort of capacity, as I understand it. He's an
NYPD officer.
No, he's not an NYPD officer.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, he is?
Yes, yeah. I mean, and that's why he was completing school, and then he got famous for delivering his speech that where he graduated from. But yeah, he was part of the New York police force.
Oh, okay.
That's what I remember last time. Unless I'm wrong.
Should we read this whole thing, because it's
well,
pretty
so
long.
In summary, what he's saying is that basically he's crying tears for Shiites, not the ones that are dead, but the ones in general, saying that Sunnis have been excluding them, that we don't teach that. Why should MSAs in colleges only be geared towards Sunni thought and not inclusive of other Shiite ideas? Why do we make areas of events in Sunni masjids that are exclusive of Shiites and not sensitive to their understandings as well too? And basically saying that Sunnis are in a position of privilege, and that we should be more mindful of that privilege and apply that advantage of the privilege and extend that to Shiites by giving them a platform in our places of worship and our organizations. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Number one, I just want to say this. What is the Sunni privilege that we have? Let's be honest here. Post 9/11, what group was the one that jumped on the bandwagon saying it was the evil Wahhabis that were doing stuff? Yeah. It was your Shia friends that were saying that, right? Who was the brunt of all of this targeted, anti-terrorism stuff? It was the Sunni Muslims, right? While you guys were out there beating yourselves and whooping yourselves around, and then changing and calling, government people and telling them that evil Wahhabis are terrorists, right? The common Muslim Sunni had to deal with checks at the airport, had to deal with family being investigated. Let's just be honest. The majority of the Muslims, our life, we don't have a privilege here, right? I mean, what is the privilege that we have in America?
But wouldn't it be the Muslim name that would cause, in the airport, and I'm just
You're right.
Wouldn't the TSA agent not know if the person's Sunni?
True, but it's not just about the name, though. There was deep investigations done to people, right? Like planting in the masjid.
On that level, yeah.
I mean, sending, entrapment. These kind of things were heavily done to Sunnis, not to the Shiites.
What if someone says, "Well, Sunnis are the majority"? What percentage of Shias are of?
Let's just 10%
of
the Muslim Ummah.
Yeah, 7 to 10%.
They claim they're higher, but they're probably like 6-7%.
Okay.
right? If you count all the all the crazy Shiites too and everyone, maybe 10%.
Yeah.
Right? Anyways, point being is this, okay? That Sunnis don't have any kind of privilege in America. Right? This is a nonsensical thing. Privilege is totally subjective, by the way. So this notion that we have some kind of privilege where we have power that we can somehow exercise to make their condition better, if we did in fact have that power, I would argue we should probably use it on ourselves first, right? Before we're worrying about the Shiites, right? Secondly,
Well, while you're in this privilege mode,
yeah,
Khalid Latif in this post is saying that there is a privilege or some kind of advantage that Sunnis have by making our MSAs Sunni only. We don't make it hospitable to Shia so that they can come and join us in our worship.
So by the way, keep in mind, read the comment sections and you'll see how are they being unhospitable. For example, the fact that we had a celebration or masjid gathering in Muharram. This is something a Shia can't do because they're in mourning. What does that have to do with me? Right? I'm saying like the fact that we want to praise Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and even Muawiyah radiallahu anhum.
Who they curse, all of them.
Yeah, and not only curse, but just because they find that offensive.
Yeah.
We should not do that because no. When they go to the Husayniyat and they insult our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, do we ask for inclusivity?
And just for the listeners, Mort, sorry to cut you off. We have to understand, look, I think everybody here on this table, especially myself, when it comes to matters of understanding Shia doctrines, we really, really firmly believe that this is one of more specialities, right? Of understanding Shia doctrines very, very well. I've talked to many scholars who I had questions from. I asked Mort about it, and he'd know that, I'm talking about religious Islamic scholars, that I had questions about the Shiaism itself, and Mort already has that research. So I'm not just saying that, but I really, really believe that's one of his specialities of understanding these sects.
You know what, right? I'd like to do?
So he's not just making this up.
I actually wrote something in response to this.
More, okay. But here's what a lot of people say. Okay, they say that yes, you're right about some of those heretical beliefs that some of the Shias say, but that the average Shia or the layman that you encounter in schools and in the street, they're not necessarily going to have those same views. They're not going to be insulting towards, Aisha radiallahu anh or any other things that Sunnis feel sacred. There are Shias that do, but it's not. You can't necessarily make the same.
You can't paint them all with one brush.
Yeah. Yeah, but okay. So let me give you an example. Okay, under this thread, by the way, in the same thread, this person makes a comment. There are microaggressions among the Sunni community in most cities. These mosques claim they are for tolerance and diversity, but they instead promote divisiveness in subtle ways that aren't obvious to the average Sunni. For example, in Columbus, Ohio, the Noor Islamic Cultural Center hosted its annual barbecue party on the 8th of Muharram, basically to alienate the Shiites and make sure none of us Shiites came to their party.
Yes.
They also haven't spoken up yet about the murders in Albuquerque. How can a Shia feel comfortable visiting the mosque and interacting with the community when we don't know how much hatred they have in their hearts? So first of all, just because your Muharram, your idea of Muharram is the day where you have to beat yourself and wear black and scream and wail, does not mean, for us, we see the day of Ashura as a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he saved Musa alayhi salam from the wrath of Fir'aun, and we celebrate that and we fast that. So because your religious views does not line up with ours, does not mean we're being microaggressive. We're not going to change our views in order to cater to your ideas, right? This is not what microaggression is. Microaggression means would be, you have to first prove that the only reason why we celebrate the Ashura is because we want to celebrate the death of Imam Hussein. This would be something that is a microaggression, right? And say, oh, but we're going to call it this. No, we were celebrating Ashura long before the death of Imam Hussein, radiallahu anh. This is something from the mouth of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we believe this. Yes, because you find it offensive does not mean it's a microaggression. And this is what I'm speaking about. This level of victimhood is something that we have to ask them. What do you mean? What kind of privilege do we have? The privilege that we worked hard and established a masjid and we want to promote Sunni values? That's a privilege now? So I would ask them. I asked a simple question, and I got humiliated. Is there a microaggression when you have the Husayniyat and you insult the Sahaba, low key, or you bring into question the chastity of our mother Aisha, or you do think, or the honor or the intention of companions around the Prophet? Is that not a microaggression?
Okay, Mark, just pause right there. Sim asked a really great question, but that's not all Shias, though, right? Is that?
I'm saying, forget about all Shia. We're talking
The
about
lay person.
Listen, we're not talking about individuals here. They're making claim that collectively as a Sunni group, we are not mindful of Shia plights.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I'm speaking collectively as a Shia group. They have tons of microaggression towards the Sunnis. Their support of Bashar al-Assad, their support of Hezbollah, their support of the cursing of the Aisha radiallahu anha, or their lack of criticism of that, or the companions, right? These ideas are collectively done by the Shiites. We don't have something, I mean, put it this way, when you have their over Ramadan, since I'm involved in the Sunnah discourse, right, I watch a lot of the stuff. They had this thing called the Shia Voice, and one of the judges, the guy in Nazar Qatari, who's he's like a munashid. These things are, he does. They call them mullah. Mullah is someone who just sings the lathmiya, whatever, right, or whatever it is. And then there was one of the judges was Ammar Naqshwani. There was a guy reciting poetry in English. This guy basically makes la'an on Umar in the middle of the poetry, radiallahu anh. And it first happened, the entire program had happened in the finals, right? And they all were in arms. Oh my God, such a great line. Oh my God, haha, repeat again. And they make him repeat it again. It never happened in the entire thing. And I'm saying, when you have a major platform in the UK embraced by Ahlul Bayt TV, one of the largest platforms, and one of the most recognized Shia polemicists, Ammar Naqshwani, encouraging one of their contestants, a layman, to recite lines of poetry insulting Umar, is this not a microaggression? If this not a blatant attack on Sunni? Do you see most Sunni masajids where we attack Shia figures? You never. I've been going to Sunni masjid majority of my life. I've never seen a khutbah just blatantly attacking Shiites. Never in my life. So when we're talking about what privilege here we're speaking about, they actually have the privilege of attacking the Sahaba and the Aisha radiallahu anha from this place in America because they have the freedom to do so here because they're protected by kuffar.
Yeah.
They would never be able to do that in other places in the world, the Muslim world. So what they're asking for is that the tolerance of the Sunnis to allow them to insult our religion. And this is tying back to what's the difference between them and Salman Rushdie? For me, they're the same. If you're going to be angry about Salman Rushdie for insulting the honor of the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rafidi, be angry at your own people for insulting the honor of the Prophet.
You said Ya Rafidi. What do you mean by that?
The people who reject the Sunnah, people who reject the companions, they reject the path of the Rasulullah.
So who's Rafidi now? What percentage of Shias are Rafidi?
By core belief, they are the Rawafid. We're talking about beliefs here. And I'm not telling you to go to each individual person and make condemnation of that person.
You're talking about the Aqidah.
Allah, a person can be very nice to you. He may even be brought up in a Shia household, but does not really believe in making la'an or doing these rituals or beating himself or rolling around like a dog. He doesn't do any of these things, right? But he just simply knows, I'm a Shia, I'm Muslim. This is what I am. Don't have hostility. You have to speak to people on the level that they understand and how they are, between the layman and the scholar, between the propagator and just the regular.
So, for instance, Iran, as an entity, as a Shia entity, are they considered Rafidi?
Of course they are.
Okay.
They're the head of the Majus. I mean, these are people that are.
What's a Majus?
Majus are the old religion of Persia, where they are like. So, for example, I call them Majus because they have Majusi practices, right?
And can you just make the distinction? I think many Muslims don't know what Rafidi means.
Okay, so where does the term Rafidi come from? Rawafid. Rafidi means someone who is a rejecter. And what are they? The scholars call them Rawafid because they rejected the companions. They rejected the ahadith.
The main companions.
They rejected the ideas of the Quran that were there. And so they call them Rawafid, meaning people who rejected the path and the way of Islam, meaning the authentic way of Islam. So they now call it, some of them were proudly say, yeah, we rejected Umar, we rejected Abu Bakr because you changed the religion. We are the followers of Ahlul Bayt. But we call them Rawafid because they openly reject this stuff. And to be fair, I want people to understand this fundamental concept. all of these things about Ashura, about Latam, about self-beating, about the issue of the companions, the adalat of Sahaba, the character of Sahaba. All of these things are irrelevant and tertiary points. The main fundamental theological difference that we have between Tashayyu and Ahl Sunnah is this.
Meaning the Shias and Ahl Sunnah.
Yeah, Shias and Sunnis is that in order for salvation, which is what we as Sunnis believe is Tawheed Lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, belief in La ilaha illallah. This is what our salvation is. Because we have the Hadith al-Bitaqa, we have the ayah in the Quran which says, don't make shirk with Allah, don't die on this thing. And their salvation is not, Tawheed is secondary, Habibi. You have to worry about knowing the Imam of your time and recognizing him. If you don't have Imamah, everything else is trash.
Based off of that, when we hear the Imamah, the 12 Imams, what is there a correlation between the 12 Imams, the Ithna Ashariya, the 12ers, and the Rafidah? Meaning that you mentioned that the Imam has to be somebody that you know, and that basically is someone that you kind of worship.
So let me make a very clear distinction, so there's no confusion here. Imamah is not a concept that we have a problem with in Islam. Ibrahim alayhi salam is the Imam.
Yeah.
Your masjid has an Imam. The Rasul is our Imam.
Yeah.
Right? The concept of 12 or Imamah is very different. It means there are 12 infallible, ma'soom, meaning sinless,
like the prophets, who
are greater than the Anbiya, except minus the Prophet, who are sinless and they are guides, and without them, there's no Islam. Meaning that you have to come to Islam through them.
Okay, how many percent of Shia is actually in Shia doctrine, Aqidah, not layman?
Anyone who is a 12er believes this.
And how much percentage of Shias are 12ers?
Majority, like I would say, like 90% of the Shia. I mean, there's Zaydis, and they have the concept of Imamah. I don't want to get into too deep because the sect I can go into, but even though it's a longer conversation, but for the general knowledge, 12ers is what we speak about because they're the majority, right?
Got it.
We can talk about minor sect later.
Yeah. So before I cut you off, you're talking about that the Imamah, he has to know his Imam, and he has to.
You have to believe that they're infallible. They have all knowledge. They have control of the kawn, the whole universe.
Yes.
They have to. I mean, this is
the Imams. They start with Ali radiallahu anhu as the first Imam, right? To the Ithna Ashariya. Is that who they believe?
Yeah. I mean, this is also a confusing thing for them. But when you say 12 Imams, it starts with Ali radiallahu anhu.
And Mahdi, right?
But technically, they believe that even Abu Talib was an Imam. Like it just before the Nabi. Yeah, but they count 12 after the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So but from Ali radiallahu anhu until their mythical figure of Imam al-Mahdi, who is the 12th Imam, who is in al-Ghaibah. He's been hiding.
But some of them claim, the Rafidah claim that they know where he is. And they're in touch with him.
Well, they know where his Ghaibah happened. It's in Samara in Iraq, where he's in there was a sirdab, like a little basement where he went and was gone. They believe that he came, he was fearing for his death. Musa Hassan al-Askari, his father, he was fearing his death, so he put him in a well or made him go away. And so then he came back, then after he went to hiding again forever. They call it Ghaiba al-Sughra wal Ghaiba al-Kubra. And they believe that he is in control of things. He's he can hear things, he can aid people, all these things, right?
But so if a Shia person who's a 12er rejects the Imams, is he considered a Shia anymore or no?
No, he's not a Shia.
He's not a Shia
and the way modern Tashayyu or Shia has claimed this is that, no, you're still a Muslim, Habibi, you're a Muslim like me, you're a Muslim. But that they say, but if you look into the books, though, they'll say that in the afterlife, there's no salvation for you. Jannah is closed for you. Because you die a death of Jahiliyyah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So do you guys know why I asked these series of questions? And I'm glad. Thanks for the detail, Mort. Is look, if you want Sunnis and Shias to have equal part in the MSA, first of all, any MSA that I've been of, I've seen Shias there, nobody gave them any problems. whether it was UIC, whether it was COD, whether any of these colleges, nobody really narrows out or what do you call it? Ostracizes or bullies, if you want to call it, anyone that's Shia. We used to have people in the MSA that were Shia. They used to pray with us. Nobody made a big deal about it. Everyone just knew they were Shia, and they made it known that they were Shia, and they were proud of it. They used to wear the necklaces and everything like that. No one gave them a major problem. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is that, look, there's a reality to this world. All right, guys? Let's just be real about it. Let's be objective about this. Whenever you have somebody who's claiming that's a Muslim student association and the mainstream of the Muslims is Sunni, and you have somebody here that has very, very different beliefs, you're not going to expect, if there's somebody who's a religious Shia to come to a religious Sunni place, that everything's going to be just sunshine and
so
puppies
before you
and
took me
sunshine.
on the explanation, I wanted to speak about this. The MSA is a Muslim Students Association created by Sunnis. Naturally, we're going to have espouse Sunni beliefs.
Yeah.
There should be no shame in that. The same way the Shia Students Organization does not cater to Sunnis.
Yeah.
They're not going to come and praise.
Is there even a Shia?
There is.
There is. Okay.
But they're not going to praise our mother Aisha radiallahu anha.
Yeah. And we don't mind if they don't invite us. We're happy.
Yeah, exactly. The same way, and I want them to understand this. The same way when someone holds a party on Christmas Day and invites me, you can't call that, if a Christian does that, you can't call that microaggression because that's his holiday.
Yeah.
Right? If you can't say, oh, he knows I can't go to a Christian party, so he doesn't want me to party with him. I mean, it's nonsense, right? I mean, then look, you're going to say, I make my choice. Do I want to attend or not attend? This is based on my beliefs. If my beliefs contradicts what they do, that's not my problem, because that's his holiday. That's his celebration.
Yeah.
That's what they believe. That's their religion. I'm not going to claim microaggression. I'm going to say, no, I choose not to do this because my beliefs say that this is encouraging beliefs of kufr and shirk.
Yeah.
And if you are true in your belief as a Rafidi, you should say, I'm not going to go to these events. Why? Because I am true to the belief that I have that Muharram I should be beating myself and crying and wailing.
Yeah.
Because it's a death time for us, right? And you should have no problem with that. People don't change their religion and their practices based around your feelings and your religion.
Yeah.
Right? This is the reality here, right? Especially in this, especially if you're using the guise of tolerance. Right. So the idea that we have to somehow cater and be more open and to allow them to teach their beliefs and their batil about history and their warping of history in order to make them feel more accommodated is absolutely false. We don't invite Zionists to Palestinian rallies and give us education to share their perspective. No, we don't. If you are staunch Zionist and you're not willing to have a conversation about what is actually the facts are, we don't care for your opinion.
Yeah.
There's no reconciliation there.
Yeah.
And the reality is that at a core, what we're saying is that besides all these other issues, there are very big differences that I suggest the listeners go and research, that there are matters of aqa'id, not just these issues of the companions and who you like better and who should be a khilafah. No, there are matters of like, are his attributes makhluk or not? Is the Quran created or not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Things like this that are key dividers. And when we say fiqh in Islam, like the different divisions in Islam, the only way you can define a different sect of Islam is when there's aqidah issues, differences, not fiqh issues.
And Mort, I was super surprised. I used to watch a lot of Sheikh Ar-Uru's debates back in the day. I remember there was one Ramadan, bro. I wouldn't even sleep after iftar, and for like 4 hours straight, I just keep on watching his videos. Very informative. And I was surprised. This was probably like 8 years ago. I was surprised that the Rawafid claim that they have their own Quran that the Sunnis don't have.
So this is the touchy. Okay, so here's the.
Sorry, is that too much, bro?
No, not. It's a lengthy thing, but I'm just gonna say this one thing, okay? Because I don't want to make it all about the Shias, right? Just put it this way: the further back you go to their Salaf or to their earlier times, the more radical the views are about the Quran are, and the more you come to modern times, the more palatable the views are.
I get it.
Okay?
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, in the end, is there any kind of reconciliation that can happen with the Sunnis and Shias?
Sure.
many people say, I know this is a very lazy form of thinking, but they say, oh, none of this can be solved between the Sunnis and Shias until the return of Prophet Isa, or or the return of Mahdi, or something like that. But do you foresee? Is there anything from our text where we come to some kind of resolution where we can peacefully coexist? I think we, for the most part, other than the situations in Syria and stuff, Shias live among every population in the Sunni world peacefully.
Yeah, alongside even in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So let's talk about reconciliation. First of all, we don't condemn the killing. I mean, we don't condone the killing of any innocent Shia person, right? Even if they've insulted someone, this is something that has to be done from the courts.
Yeah,
it's not something you can go out and just run amok and do it, right? Yeah. However, reconciliation can only come when both sides are willing to compromise, right? If you want me to condemn or stop the imams from saying that Shias are not their beliefs are kufr, or they're not actual Muslims in terms of the way what they believe, if they have that belief, then you have to be able to come out and say, listen, we're going to publicly condemn any Shiite polemicist, any Shiite imam or organization or public figure that insults in any way the companions and our mother. If they can come to an agreement on this, then we have a path to say we can draw closer. Because now we're ridding them of the batil. We're saying, listen, the issue that we have here, we can then come together and say, let's talk about the core issues. Yeah. Like Aqidah, the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can talk about that in a rational way between scholarship. But when you have laymen out there who are making salatul la'an, right?
It's actually what they refer to as salatul la'an.
Yes, a salatul la'an. This is what it is.
What does that mean?
A prayer of cursing.
Prayer of cursing.
Okay.
So is the possibility of reconciliation there? Absolutely. However, on a more human level, right? If they are in their areas and they're in their areas, whatever, and there's a common thing that maybe happen in the community where, like there's like a flood or something, right? And as a human brother in humanity, where you want to help them, or at a human level. Sure, that can be done. Cordial relationships, neighborly relationships, those kinds of things, right? There are many Shias out there who are, I'm speaking of individuals, who don't engage in this stuff. And they are just Shiite by name. And they're wonderful people. They have conversations. Absolutely, you should do the utmost to bridge the gap and to try to invite them and to try to maintain relations. Because there is some commonality between you. We're not completely different. We're closer than, let's say, the Yehudi and the Christian, right? There's some understanding. Hey, you believe in Allah, you believe in the Nabi, you believe in the Quran, right? The most common Shia you meet, they're going to be shocked to find out that their earlier imams believe that the Quran is corrupt, right? This is shocking if you tell them. So there's a sense of ghira, a sense of attachment to the religion. So by no means am I saying there's no conversation with them, that you have to walk with them with enmity and suspicion. No, individuals are different, right? So in that sense, yes, we can show empathy. Yes, we can show a commonality with them. Yes, we can try to bridge the gap. And it should be done that way. I encourage you to do that, right? Because it's the da'wah that we have on the individual level.
Yeah.
But there has to be, if we're speaking at an organizational level, there has to be some effort made by them to be accepted as, at least by the mainstream, right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest problems is that many of these people who are considering themselves as leaders in the community and putting out Facebook posts, encouraging Sunnis to invite Shias, should also ask their Shia friends and people who are of that faith or persuasion, they should cease their language related to cursing the people that the Sunnis feel have love towards, the Sahaba, the companions, that some I don't know what percentage of the Shia population actually does these type of cursings. What Salatul Lana is what you said. That we find that deeply offensive, and that that it's a deal breaker or non-starter when we can't have a conversation with you when you're not condemning your these practices among your communities. You know.
So can I ask you a question though? So listen. Let's say that they don't. Maybe they don't do Salatul La'an. Let's say they don't. Right. The very fact that they have an issue with understanding that we don't want to associate with people who have negative images of our mother. Right. For example, if you had in your personal life, if you knew there was someone who, not in front of you, but would say and have the belief that your mother is a doubtful person, that she's actually not a chaste woman, and that she was nefarious in her, God forbid, your own real mother. This person you're speaking to has these beliefs, and he has this doubt of your mother's character. Would there be, even if he doesn't do it in front of you, would there be any desire in you to draw closer to that person or to have any kind of camaraderie with that person?
Absolutely not. And
this is the fundamental point that the Shia need to understand. I would sacrifice my own mother for Aisha radiallahu anha.
SubhanAllah.
Aisha is more important to me than my own mother.
SubhanAllah.
And this is what you need to understand. That when you, even if you say, well, we don't do it publicly, the fact that you have these views and you're public about this negative image that you have about it is problematic to us. You can't reconciliate with someone who has views of this way. The same way they would come to us and say, well, if you have positive views of Muawiyah, isn't that offensive to us? Maybe that might be. But we're not asking you for reconciliation.
Yeah.
If you want to be, we're not asking you to accept us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you want to accept you, then you're going to have to conform to what we believe in.
Yeah. And I find, and the thing that always, even like, as not, I don't want to say the child, but like teenagers, what didn't sit well with me, and let's just say that some Shias say that, because I've met some Shias say, oh no, there's a really extreme Shias, we don't curse Abu Bakr, we don't curse Uthman radiallahu anhu. But as far as the heads and the scholars and of the past, like you said, the Salaf, it's so problematic for me, almost like trying to understand the Trinity, that the first compilation of the Quran was by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, in the life of Rasulullah, then Abu Bakr, then Uthman radiallahu anhu, the two Sahaba who they cursed very, very heavily. That didn't sit well with me. It's like, them, we call it the Mus'haf of Uthman, and they cursed the heck out of Uthman radiallahu anhu. He compiled the Quran, right? And that just never sat well with me. It's like, dude, he, like, everything that we use now is a compilation of Uthman radiallahu anhu, but you curse him, right? And I'm not, again, just to be fair, it's not all Shias.
Not only that, I'm saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would leave his religion with people who are, and now that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the most protected, the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would be married to munafiqah, mushrikat. I mean, he would be married.
Why would he
to them
do something haram
without
like
knowing?
that?
He died in their lap.
Yeah.
He's buried in their homes.
Ajib.
Wow.
Wow.
Like, I mean, this is something that the most guided man in the history of this universe is going to be misguided in this way.
Yeah.
Well, Allah would protect Nabi Nuh alayhi salam from having an evil wife, but not the Prophet sallallahu rahmatullah alameen. He wouldn't protect him from this.
Wow. Yes, sir. And guys, look, just for the listeners, I didn't want to make this a complete segment just about Shias.
Sorry, we're not finding
No. But the thing is that the reason I asked those questions is from my point of view is, you're asking for some type of utopia that's never going to exist in the first place, right? You want everyone to just neglect everything and just hold hands and stuff. Yes, it's good if you can do that, but it's never really going to happen.
Yeah,
it's never really going to happen, right? And to just like hold Muslims, put them on the stand and try to make them feel guilty for being Sunni, and using this as a platform so they can feel guilty, and the Muslims that don't know too much about Islam, you're making them feel like, oh yeah, we really are intolerant as Sunnis towards Shias. Like, no, you're misusing people's innocence and making them feel guilty of something that they shouldn't feel guilty about in the first place.
All right, guys.
Anyways,
we've talked to death about it, and I think
if you want more information, Sunnah Discourse, I have tons of stuff that if you really want to get into the polemics of it. But the bottom line is that what Sim is saying is is that we're speaking about it in a social perspective right now, right? And if you want to get into the polemics of it, that's a whole different conversation. But in order, simply put, if you want respect, you have to give respect.
Yeah.
I think that's the simplest way to put it, Sim.
Yeah. Sheikh, can you give a quick rundown on our sponsor real quick?
Yes, I can give a quick rundown on our sponsor, inshallah. And our sponsor, Mecca Books, as you all know, We had a very, very dear brother of ours on the podcast, and I apologize because of all the guests that we have. What was his name again, gentlemen?
Arthur Richard?
Arthur.
Is that
Yeah. Jazakallah khairan. So, and what number episode was that? So they can look it up if they need to.
that was
Sam,
a
to put you
couple
on the
sets.
spot. Yeah.
276, I think.
Okay, cool. So this episode is brought to you by Mecca Books, your source for traditional Islamic knowledge. It's where seekers of knowledge go to buy their books. In fact, whether it's myself or Sim, we tend to go directly to Mecca Books because we have a massive catalog that covers just about every topic from fiqh, aqidah, hadith, tasawwuf, and everything else. Recently, we've ordered one amazing book series called Exemplars for Our Time. It's a 9-volume set of 9 different books covering the lives of some of the most amazing Islamic figures in our modern history. It's the perfect book for a father looking to learn how to raise his daughter, a student of knowledge looking for inspiration, or someone on a spiritual path wanting to learn how some of the awliya of our tradition managed to live normal lives while still worshiping their Lord in the greatest way, in the greatest manner. You can go to meccabooks.com/TMM. That is meccabooks.com/TMM to purchase the book and use the code TMM for your 10% discount. Let us know what you think once you get the book.
All right. Do we have any questions in the chat? Does anyone have any?
Let me get into the chat. I wasn't really
What was on fire? He wasn't.
Yeah, I was trying to push it on TikTok too, so live session, so it was kind of cool doing it. But anyways, let me see. The 12 sects that are approximately 20 years after the Mamluks are forced to hell. Okay, yeah, I don't see any questions. There's someone who deleted some comments. I don't know what that is, but the 12 Imams in the closet. The 12 Imams unknown. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't see any questions. A lot of people seem to agree that the Shias need to correct their beliefs. I think we are good. Wait, if you guys in the audience, if you guys could make sure you guys like the video, please. This really helps us in the algorithms, as you know, because they want to take away Sheikh Amir's barakah. They have demonetized us because there's a conspiracy by the Illuminati against Sheikh Amir. So can you please like the video so that we can get this around in the algorithm? And if you really want to be extra, if you could share the video, that would really, really help us.
Share, comment.
Yeah.
Commenting in the comment section, guys.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts. Put your questions in the comment section and let us know. We all read the comment section, and sometimes there's people who will say some mean things. I think one guy, the last episode, Mahin was talking about like the salvage jeans or something. And
I saw that.
And he was like really upset about how we are against consumerism, but we buy like expensive things or expensive clothes.
I was thinking that. I was like, what Sim said was that we're actually part of the problem. Like, it's not that we're devoid of the problem, that we actually, the society makes you be a consumerist. Like, it's not that we all have that, we all fall to that.
And not just that, it's like, how is that connection being even made where we buying something nice is
It's not even nice, but good quality is going to last you a long time.
Someone said it's that a pig head behind Sim.
Oh. That's a wolf.
No!
That's a wolf shit, baby.
Should we?
It's not a boar. It's a wolf.
It's a wolf. I like wolves.
It's a silhouette, if that makes you happy.
Because Sim is part of his own soul lone wolf pack.
No, I like wolves
But no,
because they're a community. They work together. We all strive to have like
pack.
they
do,
work together. They have
They have good
Can you
leadership.
do wolf howls?
and they're not like, I like wolves because they're not like purely like symbolic as good, because they're kind of in the gray area, you know. And the Mamluks, we try to be good, but we're kind of grayish.
Yeah, we're grayish. Yeah. Sim,
We're
are
grayish.
you?
No, but
a
think about the
wisher?
jeans. Can I say something about the jeans?
Yeah.
Look. One thing that I'll say is, when Mahin was explaining that, and the work that you have to actually put into those jeans, that's almost like anti-consumerism, is because it's almost like you're getting raw, really good material that's going to last you for a long time. That's what I got from it. And I didn't really compare that to consumerism. If somebody wants really nice jeans, they'd go to could buy those like $800 Armani jeans and promote it all the time.
Mort is the most laid back person in terms of his clothing. He doesn't buy anything flashy, but he likes Louis Vuitton. That's all he likes Louis Vuitton bags.
Yeah.
All right. But everything else about him is in terms of his appearance
Yeah.
and stuff. He's
Yeah.
average Joe, regular guy.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
But
I like watches.
I like nice clothes. I buy nice brands, right?
Yeah.
But
There's nothing wrong with that. Or
but
something encourages us to do
my
that.
car is average. I don't have a flashy car. That's just because I'm not big into cars.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't think about German cars like
You want
every
utility.
other guy does.
You want
You know.
utility.
Yeah.
You want utility.
Yeah.
You want
I
a
like-
good
I like-
functioning car.
No, it's not about utility. It's that he likes different things.
Yeah.
Right? And people spend what they like on.
Yeah.
And some people like cars, some people like clothes, some people like gadgets.
But the difference is that I don't buy based on like this
What
is
people are gonna say.
or what
Yeah.
status is
Yeah.
it going to bring me. Like no, like my butt cannot ride in an Acura or you
Yeah.
know it's
Right.
just beneath me. You know, some people they have to have a BMW, they have to have a German car, and that's fine.
Yes, because they buy it because they feel like it's beneath them to drive something else.
Yeah.
And if they do that, I think that's problematic.
Yeah.
Right? You should buy something because you genuinely want to have it, and it's something you're going to appreciate yourself.
Yeah, it's
Not for the
comfort,
look
too.
of other people, because someone say, "Oh my God, driving a Toyota is such a dicey thing to do. I can't do that." Like somehow it's like a backward immigrant thing. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah, and plus on the flip side, if somebody wants to like not wear jeans, or dress very humbly in the state of zuhud, that's awesome too, right? But every single human being is going to have something that they have that's going to bring more comfort to their lives, whether it's a smartphone, whether it's some type of technology at home. It doesn't mean that you're a hyper consumer.
And I think the thing is that if it becomes your sole priority for existence to just work and buy these things,
spend all your money paycheck to
I
paycheck.
mean, you're completely in the dunya. This is something wrong.
Yeah.
And we
Bro,
talked about
there-
this before too, like sadaqah. We all talk about giving away in charity.
Yeah.
Sim smirk.
But
No,
someone asked, "Are you a
so-
Witcher fan?
A what fan?
Are Sim a Witcher 3 fan?
A Richard 3?
The Witcher, the game."
Oh, with The Witcher, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I had the game, but it was just too long for me to finish because I played a few of those missions and side missions, and I kind of got lost. And
I shouldn't be admitting this in front of Sheikh Amr because this is kind of like a black magic Witcher, witchy thing. But I like the Netflix series.
yeah, the Witcher Netflix series. I mean, you have to watch it with
I
caution.
apologize, Sheikh Amr.
It's not for kids, so
Sorry, Your Holiness.
keep the fast forward button near you because there are some scenes that are not good. So, when we were little, my mom would say "FF karo," "FF karo," whatever. And so FF was a button on the fast forward on the videotape player.
Yeah.
So
No,
karo
but
means to do.
But you had a smirk when you were looking at the conversation. You want to say
Oh no! Someone said, "Sim, do you prefer German women over German cars?"
That's a
I'm,
good one.
I'm currently married to an Irish woman, so I can't comment on that. But I generally do prefer women over cars. So, I cars are very low on my priority list. I think, in terms of my poisons, I guess women are probably my biggest poison. But cars and other material aspects are probably the lowest. I think I'm speaking for most Muslims out there. Most Muslim guys have their poison is.
I think there are different kinds of poisons. Like I can want women and want money too. Like I mean, I think like there's a difference. Like you know what I mean? Like they're two different things.
Yeah, I know. When he asked about the comparison between the cars and women, I was like, dude, you guys don't want cars.
Yeah, I honestly, if there's one
Chef
thing
loves cars, man. Chef Hammer,
yeah. But
you can have a great TMM listeners. If you ever meet Sheikh Hammer in person, just and if you like cars, you can have a great
Yeah, but
discussion.
I'm just gonna let you guys know. I don't know a lot about cars,
no, he
so
just
don't
likes
be.
the way they sound. No,
Yeah,
but look, but
exactly.
I think though, at practical value, Sim though, like if you're gonna truly say, hey, if you could only have a woman or a car, what would you choose? I think any man can say woman, dude.
No,
I mean,
but-
if you say car, you're a moron.
It depends what part of the stage they are in their life. If they've been married for a long time,
I
then
don't care at any point. If you can only have one thing, you have a woman or a car.
No. Put a few things together: a woman, money, cars. What other?
Wait, you can only have one of them?
Yeah, put money or women.
Yeah, because I mean, look, you could say, well, the reason why.
no, you can't use your money for women
That's what I'm
though.
gonna say.
That's what
because
he's
I
saying
have money
though.
by women in cars.
No,
You know
No,
what I
he
mean?
said you
Like,
can't.
No.
And, hey, we don't buy women,
Oh.
okay?
listen, bro.
Astaghfirullah,
I don't care. I
bro.
know what it says, bro. It's simple or not, bro. But if you only have one thing, you rather have a woman, bro. Money goes, money comes. If you have no woman to spend your money on, enjoy it with, what's the point of having the money?
The Prophet loved women. That's all.
That's
That's all you gotta say.
Yeah.
Right.
The Prophet loved women.
And
Sent,
it's natural.
and what?
And وقرة عيني في الصلاة, and his
cool- yeah.
the coolness of his eyes was in his salah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he also had other things like musk
Yeah.
and he like perfume scent. He
Yeah.
like these things. And Allah loves beauty.
You're
And
right.
women are beautiful.
And
What is a woman?
Chip, you brought it up, man.
Sorry. Anyways, bro, this is gonna go on
I
for a
don't
long
know,
time.
but some Muslims are just have like a, even from our like traditional side, like, oh, Matt Walsh is blah blah blah. You guys are listening to Matt Walsh, and you're listening to Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson. Like, dude, some of the stuff that they say is spot on. Like, watch that "What Is a Woman" video or that documentary.
Yeah.
You'll see the craziness that the left has become, and you're not becoming this. It's become like this thing that like a lot of people on social media now are trying to create this
Box.
no this thing that doesn't even exist. Like, there's no giant following of Jordan Peterson or Matt Walsh among Muslims. They don't even
I
exist.
see.
They're creating like an imaginary.
Yeah, like the rise of the red pill Muslim.
Yeah,
No, guys, but you know one thing, if you really dissect this, look, and you said this from the beginning of the podcast, right, from our early episodes, look, Muslims, and that's the reason why we started the podcast, is we're just concerned with the truth. We're truth seekers. Nothing else really matters, right? Truth is what matters to us as Muslims, and that's what basically is infused in every tenet of our aqidah, right? Now, the dilemma is that in this postmodern era, truth, the word objective truth, is a very taunting and a very offensive word to the extreme left. The word truth.
Yeah.
If you ask them, no, I'm just seeking the objective truth, I believe I have the objective truth, they'll say, no, that's very troubling and you need to be deplatformed because that's a bigoted statement, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody, now let's move to like Matt Walsh, or for some people, Jordan Peterson. We're not saying that we love Matt Walsh. Oh my God, I'm going to follow the fanboy. No, when somebody is able to exemplify what something true is and are able to articulate it very well and give good examples, us as human beings, we jive with that because our paradigm is truth.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all it is. Like, don't be a part of this bandwagon of whatever it is that you're following. Just, dude.
I say this. I say, look, if you can appreciate points from people on the left, why can't you appreciate points from people on the right?
Of course. Yeah, but it's so much more. You win so many more social media brownie points when you bash Jordan Peterson or you bash Matt Walsh, and so that's why it's hypocrisy among some of our, not every one of ours, but there's some Muslim leaders in our community who want to gain this following. They get a lot of like thumbs up and likes and stuff like that when you're saying something nasty about these guys.
So let me be very clear. There are certain things about Andrew Tate which are clearly un-Islamic, no doubt. But I don't think any single like Muslim guy is going to come out and, I mean, generally speaking, I don't know about every one of them, but he's going to say that Andrew Tate is my Islamic role model, right? No, it's just like a figure that he says some things that they like and some things they don't like. And the things that he says that are right, a lot of men are feeling. And I think what brother Sir Arthur said was right in the last, in 276, that there's a void of Muslim men who speak the truth, who are unapologetic, and just say what they believe. Yeah. And they're principled. I think what the thing is that a lot of these people feel what they see in these individuals, that they're principled. They may not agree with what they say all the time. They may not agree with everything, but they recognize and appreciate the principled nature that, hey, I know exactly what I'm going to get from this person when he's speaking. I know his argument is going to be consistent with the points A, B, and C. It's not going to deviate from that. That structure, that clear thinking, is what men gravitate towards too. Imagine when you look at a leader, anyone you admired growing up, they were accomplished, they knew what they wanted, they had the clear way of speaking, there was no ambiguity about their goals and ambitions, and they were very driven about it. Yeah. And I think that's what men gravitate towards because they aspire to be that way, where men naturally want to be leaders. They naturally want to be in positions of dominance and power. Right, because that's what our natural habitat is. Even when men, have you ever heard of how women speak to each other and how men speak to each other? We clown on each other all the time.
That's how we show love, dude.
We show love, but also it's a form of our innate nature. We are passive aggressively trying to show dominance with each other. This is our nature, right? Like we have to show dominance. Okay, yeah, I got this, I got that, right? But it's playful in a way, but yet there's some truth to it. That men are always marking their territory. When women, the joke that I could make to Amir, I could never make to my wife. Yeah. It would destroy her.
Yeah.
Right? It would be offensive, right? You know what I mean? Like it would.
Oh,
no,
yes.
No, literally, right?
Why don't you share some of those things right now?
I think anyone, even you, the way you say to me, you would hurt your wife. She would probably, rip you up. And that's what I'm trying to say, that men generally, we interact differently, but we desire this type of competition. We desire men who excel. I mean, we admire men who excel in these competitions, who are able to show dominance, who are able to do it in a very masculine way, but a very tactful way, right? We can appreciate that. And so this is what Muslim men are lacking. Right now, we have to deal with the compassionate imams who want to cater to everybody. And people don't want to be compassionate.
Yeah.
Men don't always want to show compassion. We want to be absolutely strict and rigid in our principles, right? This is why when we study the issues of, punishment and reward, right? We see that women tend to be more empathetic. And all studies show that men actually get excited when criminals and thieves and cheaters get caught and they're faced with a punishment, because we like the systematic justice. We like the principles.
Remember that one Reddit thread? Robbers getting effed?
Oh, I love
Oh, that's such a great subreddit. If anyone's on Reddit, go
What's it
to
called?
Robbers getting the F word. ED.
Wow.
So,
Especially when they're breaking into homes.
it's basically a compilation of people who are thieves getting shot or
Immediate justice.
Immediate justice.
Especially when they're breaking into homes with little kids and stuff like that.
And men enjoy
those
that,
people
right?
that get their justice, I'm like, heck.
No, but like a woman, like, oh my God, this is extremely disturbing to see. But a man's like, hell yeah, he got what he deserved.
Yeah.
This is great. This is brilliant. Everyone should do this, right? Yeah. And all it's doing is showing is that what I'm trying to highlight is not the violence or any of this part. What I'm saying is that men appreciate different things. And the things that we admire in leaders are qualities that are of consistency, they are of ambition, they are of competitiveness. And this is what we lack. And so when you find other characters outside our community, because these are universal whether you're Muslim or not.
Yeah.
This is ingrained in us. When you find people that reflect those values or have those characteristics, you're naturally going to gravitate and appreciate some of the commentary they make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simple.
Folks, that's our show for this afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and make sure to click on like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section below. We love you all. Thanks for your support. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.